hey, you know, what can we do sometime? You know, what can we do?
Using some legal snooping techniques, I was able to get into Florida's computers and cracked open the files that named Willie Steen and other black voters as criminals. From Katherine Harris's elections office, I decoded this list of 57,000 names of convicts matched to Florida voters. Thomas Alvin Cooper is convicted in Ohio. He's a white guy. Thomas Cooper of Florida loses his vote. He's a black guy, and he's listed for a date of conviction of his felony, January 30th, 2007. All it is people who have names similar to someone who's been convicted somewhere in the United States of a crime. 95% of them are completely innocent, should never have lost their vote. Here's William Osteen, matched to Willie Steen of Florida. Over half of them are black. Almost every black person voted for Al Gore. Altogether, 94,000 voters were named as felons. Of these, 95% are innocent. And although black people make up only 13% of Florida's population, more than half the scrub list, 54%, were African American. I flew to the state capitol, to Governor Jeb Bush's office tower, to find out who came up with this fake felon list that elected our president. All those innocent black voters, thousands who lost their vote. Was it just a coincidence? Not according to this document, which fell into my hands, which proves that the election was signed, sealed, and delivered long before any ballot was cast. The state hired a company called DBT Choice Point. This document, marked confidential and secret, indicates that the company was paid millions to create lists of criminals who should be barred from voting, and then verify that those lists were correct. But Florida state officials told Choice Point not to bother verifying the names, despite Choice Point warnings that it could mean thousands of innocent people would end up losing their vote. And First Brother Jeb Bush is also implicated in the illegal voter purge. His office blocked the registration of 50,000 new voters, almost everyone a Democrat. In this letter, Jeb's office denies the letter exists. At the heart of the felon fix is this man, Katherine Harris's aide, Clayton Roberts, Harris's director of elections. I took my BBC television crew to Florida's Capitol building to meet up with Harris's operative. 18th floor, Division of Elections. We've come to ask Mr. Clayton Roberts, the director, a few questions. But when I began to ask him about the documents marked secret, he became a little uncomfortable.
We have a statute that says we have to have a private company do this. We put it out for bid. They got the bid. And I think I'm done with this interview.
Wait, well, let me just show you the contract, if I could, Mr. Roberts. Wait. It says here, right in the contract, that the verification is supposed to be done by DBT, that you paid them $4 million. Don't you? It could look to other people that you paid $4 million to purchase this election for the Republican Party, Mr. Roberts? Instead, Mr. Roberts called in the state troopers to remove us from the governor's office building. It's interesting here, huh?
Oh, man, whoever those ones. Now that the votes are counted, it is time for the votes to count.
In accordance with the laws of the state of Florida, I hereby declare Governor George W. Bush the winner of Florida's 25 electoral votes for the President of the United States. I wish to point out that our American democracy has triumphed once again.
It is a special day for America. It's a day in which our nation confirms the fact that we trust democracy, a peaceful transfer of power.
Thank you, and may God bless America.
To the corporations that put him into the White House, George W. Bush was an investment. It paid off big time. Take that company that came up with the phony felon list, Choice Point. They got it 95% wrong. But they didn't get the boot. They got the big, no-bid contracts, including one for $67 million to help Bush fight his war on terror.
And they weren't the only company helpful to Bush's election to hit the White House jackpot.
George W. Bush, as governor and now as president, is an absolute corporate wet dream.
Dreams and schemes hatched in these glass towers of Texas.
Looks powerful. Looks invincible. In fact, it's the gravestone here in Houston of what was the largest power corporation on this planet, Enron. Here's something that caught my eye. Bush takes office. Just 3 days later, he signs an executive order that raises the price of electricity in California. Nearly bankrupts that state, but earns these guys billions. Now, why would our president do that?
Jim Hightower, once the Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Texas, is now a radio columnist. From inside government and out, he's tracked the Bush family's mix of politics and payouts for years.
I'd trust a wolf to guard my last pork chop before I trust the Bushites to guard my liberties. Any fantasy that the boss of a major corporation has can come true if you just put in some money into Bush's personal or political pockets. They're very loyal to each other and to those who are loyal to them. They stand and deliver for those who put money into their politics or into their personal accounts.
I, George Walker Bush, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Enron puts in a few $100,000 into Bush's presidential campaign. In the first 5 or 6 months of the administration, it reaps hundreds of millions of dollars in personal benefit.
Texas Republic Justice Chief Craig McDonald is a modern-day vigilante who follows the political money trail.
Here's Ken Lay, who's the CEO of Enron. He delivered hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Bush campaign. This is the power team. They hit the long ball and then put you all the way in the White House. The Pioneer Network was built by George W. Bush off the network of cronies, acquaintances, and funders that his father had during president. They built this network not just out of whole cloth, but it had been a network that helped the family dynasty, if you will.
To be a pioneer, you have to pledge to raise at least $100,000 for the Bush candidacy.
These were pioneers who were plowing new ground to create record amounts of money for Bush's run for the presidency. The legal limit for anyone to give to the campaign is $1,000.
So the way they get around that campaign limit is you get a corporate executive who wants favors from the incoming Bush administration, who will tap his family, extended family, corporate colleagues, country club pals, golf buddies, etc., raking up $1,000 checks and bundle them up into $100,000 plus contributions to George W.'s presidential ambitions.
After the first year of Bush entering the White House, 43 of his elite group of pioneers received lush government appointments. They personally benefited. 19 of them appointed to ambassadorships.
Even before he takes the presidential oath, Bush forms a secret task force, including Enron's Ken Lay, to rewrite America's environmental and energy laws.
He put the very people who funded him in the room to devise a clean air policy. They wrote the policy, he enacted the policy, and the policy was strictly voluntary. Did nothing to clean up the air, yet he touted it as a major accomplishment.
Instead of the government telling utilities where and how to cut pollution, we will give them a firm deadline and let them find the most innovative ways to meet it.
These same funders were sick and tired of trying to play by the environmental rules and regulations. George Bush gave them an environmental clean air policy that any corporation would lust after.
How proud we are to be the #1 state in the country in air pollution.
Ken Lay got almost total, complete energy deregulation out of George Bush.
What did the Bush administration do? It refused to impose price controls, to put a cap on those utility prices, meaning a company like Enron could set its own prices to consumers.